a bunch of new stuff on September 9th that we introduced, and it's all hitting the stores right now. And so I'm just going to run through some of the new stuff, just give you a bit of info about it, let you know some cool things about it, how I like to use it, and then afterwards you guys can come and play around on it and ask me some more questions.
Do you have Vincent later on coming in?
Yes, he's coming in, and he can answer any questions in French too. I only speak English, but when Synth gets here, then you can ask him any French questions, and we get run through everything again in French for you.
Just, sorry, before you start, you're doing the presentation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you your mic then.
Okay.
I thought Vincent was coming along, so I'll do that quickly. Okay, here. You know how to clip on it?
Yeah.
And that'll be your little pouch. There you go. Bring it up.
Okay. All right, so what I'll start with is the DJ-808. So Roland partnered with Cerrado to come out with a new flagship Cerrado DJ controller. And because Roland's background is more with musical instruments, and on the performance side of things, we tried to incorporate a lot of performance elements into this DJ controller. So I'll just kind of run through it. On the bottom portion here is everything you'd kind of expect on a typical controller for Cerrado. So you have controls over everything that's happening inside the Cerrado software over there. And I just have right now, like I said, I come at this from more of a production background, so I'm always looking at ways to create stuff. So I'm using the auto loop option. I have a few different loops going, and then I can just kind of bring stuff in and out, mixing different loops together to make my own creations. But where this controller really starts to differentiate from standard ones, the first thing is here with the platters. Super low latency platters, the lowest latency platters on the market right now. So for anyone looking to do any scratching, this is a really good controller for that. As well, what we added is this top row here that I'll show you. So what you're hearing right now is actually, we took a stripped down version of a TR-08 drum machine and put it right in a top row here. And everything that's being played on the drum machine can be synced up to your tracks that are playing in Cerrado. So now everything's all synced up automatically. There are a few different kits, the 909, 808, 707, and 606 kits. And for all of them, you can go in and tweak the individual sounds too. Like here, I'm going to tweak the snare a bit. You can go in and just adjust some of the settings on it. You have individual volume control for each of the drum sounds too, so I could drop out the hi-hats, bring them back in. It's all programmed using this step sequencer here. It's like a TR-08 808 style sequencer, so you have one measure and 16 steps per measure, and a button for each step in the measure. So it's very easy to create your rhythms on the fly, just change the drum beat that quickly. And then it's back to where it was. As well, what they did is this same sequencer can be used for Cerrado sampler. So Cerrado expanded their sampler to have 8 samples now that can be loaded in. And say I wanted to play this sample here along with my drum beats, what I can do is just call up sample 5 here, enter in where I want it to be played, and now it's playing that sample for me. And I got another sample queued in here. It's actually the start of a song. So now the sequencer is going to be pressing that button essentially for me. And with the pads, you can also play on the top 4 pads. You can actually play the drums and record what you play into the sequencer and have it play back. As well, on the bottom 4 pads, you can play rolls. And they're pressure sensitive, so the harder you press, the faster the roll. So it's very easy to add variations on the fly. And another thing we added is the VT vocal transformer. So I'll just show you that. So it might sound weird, I'm getting mic'd twice here, but you can do some adjustments to your voice, so you can pitch it way down,
Pitch it up. Add some reverb.
as well. There's an EQ, so it could like roll off the low end if I needed to. And something really unique with this is, so I've got my track playing here, and this controller comes with Cerrado as well as the pitch and time plugin. Pitch and time lets you shift the pitch and time of songs independently. So I'll just show you an example here using the key sync function in Cerrado. If you have songs at a different keys, you can actually pitch things up and down so that you can match the keys to mix them together all in the same key. So if I enable that key sync on a track, what I can do then is turn on the auto pitch on the mic, and then I just hold down shift and tell it what track I want that auto pitch to sync to. So it's going to sync to that one that's playing right now. Now everything I'm saying to the mic will be kept in key with what's playing in the song here. So I'm not a singer at all, but what I'll do is I'll just kind of start at a low note and go up, and you'll hear, instead of a gradual transition, you're going to hear steps as it shifts between notes in the key. You really hear, especially on the higher notes, that auto tune happening because my voice is going all over the place and it's keeping it in pitch. As well, there's an auto duck, so every time I talk, it'll duck the music out for me. Great for DJs in a club. On the back here, there's RCA inputs for line and phono, as well as a standard MIDI jack. This is the first Cerrado controller with a standard MIDI jack, so it can sync up to any instruments, anything that's MIDI capable. Because Roland is really pushing for this to be more of a performance controller, it's really valuable to have that sync option to then sync it up to external instruments. As well, what we've done is there's two USB connections, and these are what Roland calls iRed Link. And it's any of Roland's more recent products from the past 3 or 4 years can connect over USB on here. And so for instruments like the boutiques that are USB powered as well, it's literally one cable running into here for MIDI sync, power to the device, as well as getting audio back into the mixer. The mixer and the drum machine and VT will actually all operate just as an independent mixer and drum machine on their own, so I could unplug Cerrado, or if something happened, my computer crashed, the drum machine would still keep going, and anything else I have plugged in on the inputs, I can still keep up while I restart my computer. So I'll show you an example in that. I just need a second to cue something up here. So what you're hearing right now is a drum machine inside of here. You can increase the tempo a bit, get it more like a dance floor tempo. So this is the internal drum machine on top here. And now what you're hearing is the external one, the TR-09. All synced up, sending audio, power, and everything all over a single USB cable. Synced to whatever I'm playing inside. So now what I'll do is I'll just walk through these new boutique devices. So This one here is the TR-09. So this is the TR-09. It's a remake of the 909. All the programming and functionality is identical to the original 909. What we've done is, on the original, a lot of people would use the rim out as a source to sync other analog gear. So we actually put a trigger out right here, so you can sync it up with other analog gear or a modular system. It can be powered by batteries or USB, and there's a little built-in speaker. Comes with this little docking station, and it can be tilted at 2 different levels, which makes it a bit easier to use when you're sitting at a desk in the studio. I was mentioning the IRA link, one cable for everything. When you plug this cable into a computer, it's the same thing. You get power and MIDI sync, and you will actually have 4 channels of audio going into your computer. And you can assign different instruments to each of those 4 channels, so then you can track 4 things at a time into your DAW. So then the next one here is the TB-03. Based on the 303, which you're probably already aware of, but it is basically an instrument that is the defining sound of acid house music. That squelchy resonant sound right there created a whole genre of music. And what people would often do with this song, as a perfect example, is they would run the TB-03 through external effects pedals. So what we've done with this is actually included inside it. There's 3 different types of overdrive and distortion, as well as 3 different types of delay and reverb added into this. So there I can tweak my sound, get it more daft. And another thing we've added is a trigger in and CV in gate out. So again, it can integrate very well in a modular system or with old analog gear, and you can actually use this as a sequencer for an analog synth. It comes in a similar little docking station as the TR-09 does. So now I'll move over to the VP-03. It's based on Roland's classic VP-330 vocoder, which was one of the most famous vocoders of all time. So I'll just show you an example here of the vocoder sound. Check, check. VP-03. So that's kind of the classic vocoder sound. There's a few controls over that, like an ensemble effect that kind of widens it, thickens it up, and the tone control is kind of like a filter on it. In addition to the vocoder, there's also a human voice choir sound, as well as a string sound, which is kind of like an old analog string machine. Very classic string machine type sound. And what you're hearing right now is I'm playing a single note, and it's playing a whole chord. There's a chord memory. You can save up to 16 different chords. As well, there's a sequencer in here. And the sequencer is similar to the previous Boutique series, if you've ever used them, with one exception. Per step, you can record not only a note, but also record a sample in and have that sample played back through the vocoder. So I'll show you an example here. This is the note information that's entered in on this pattern in the sequencer. And what I'm going to do is I'll just go into step number 1 and record something on step number 1. Musitechnic. And now when I play that back, So I got all the way to Musitech. You only get about a second for each step. So I can go to another step and record Neek. Oh, sorry. Neek. I think those are tied. Sorry, just give me a second here. Neek. There you go. So I've linked two samples together to say Musitechnic, and then the note information is still in there. And you can mix a little bit of the dry mic in too. Sometimes a vocoder is difficult to understand, so if you mix a bit of the dry mic, it's a little bit easier to understand. And then the last one here, so I should mention with this, it comes with the microphone, but the keyboard sold separately. It's the same keyboard used with the rest of our boutique series. This module just pops right out, and you can swap different modules into the keyboard. So now I'll move on to the System 8.
Just a question, Jacob.
Yep.
If I wanted to use something else than a voice with the VP, is it possible? You know, sending like, I know that there's no audio in outside of the microphone.
You can use anything you want. It's an XLR jack, and you can plug it into there. Just adjust the level here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another synth or whatever.
Yeah. I like to send drums and stuff through vocoders. It sounds weird. So this is the System 8. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the System 1. It's a similar synth, but smaller. And what we did with it was we kind of took all the feedback from it and put it into this synth. So it's called a plug-out synthesizer, and I should explain that kind of concept a bit first before I go into this specific synth. So plug-out is a VST. It can run in your DAW, and you can do all your programming in there, use the synth as a one-to-one controller for creating your own patches and sounds, and then you can load that VST out of the computer into the synth, into the actual hardware, disconnect it from the computer, and have that synth loaded inside of there. So then the synth becomes almost like a host for that VST. And you can get a bunch of different models of VSTs based on various classic Roland synths. So this is, the System 1 was that technology, and then this one here, the System 8 is as well, but we've just kind of advanced the synth based on all the feedback. So one thing that people wanted was more polyphony, so 8-note polyphony, as the name suggests, as well. People wanted more keys, so now you have 49 synth action keys. And people wanted more slots for those plug-outs that I was mentioning. The System 1 only had one, where this one has 3 slots, so you can have 3, in addition to the core voice, you can have 3 different synthesizer profiles, basically 3 different synth engines loaded into here. And one other thing with the System 1 as well as the previous boutique series is people wanted a joystick controller that was similar to the controls you had with the original Jupiter and Juno line. So just show you an example here. You have controls over what the joystick modulates right here above the joystick. So left to right now is opening and closing my filter. Or it can modulate the pitch instead. Or any amount in between of either or. It's doing both right now. So I was mentioning the plug-outs. This one comes with the Jupiter 8 plug-out, and the Juno 6 is coming soon, probably sometime around the new year that it'll be available, but we don't know an exact date yet. But basically with this synth, you get 3 synths in one. System 8, Jupiter 8 plug-out, plus the Juno 6, which will be coming soon. And any of the existing plug outs are going to be adapted to, that they can load into here as well. So here's the System 8 sound. A bit brighter sound, and then I press the button and now all of a sudden I'm into a Jupiter 8. Very classic Jupiter 8 brassy type sound. As well, there's 3 effects. You can choose from 3 different types of overdrive and distortion, 3 different types of chorus and delay, and 3 different choose from various different types of reverb. And this is on top of the Jupiter, where the Jupiter 8 never had any effects, so you can add those on top of it. There's also a performance mode, and the performance mode allows you to split and layer different sounds. So here's an example. I have an arpeggio going on the right side, and on the left I have a bass sound. You notice the arpeggiator is only being applied to the right. You can assign it to the left or right or upper or lower. Another neat thing with the performance mode is, with this sound as an example. So my upper is a Jupiter 8 on this sound, and the lower is a System 8. So in the performance mode, you can actually layer and split 2 different synths together. There's also a step sequencer in here. I'll just show you an example of that. Did you guys turn down the sound? Nope. No? Oh, there it goes. I think someone cleared out my sequences yesterday when I was demoing it. Okay, sorry about that. Oh, I see why. I went into the wrong mode. Here we go. So when you're in performance mode, you have actually 2 tracks in the sequencer. You have the upper and lower that can be different lengths of patterns, and you can enter in different notes individually. So there's both playing right now. As well, on the back here, there's a trigger in, so it can be clocked from any analog source that has a trigger out. As well, there's a CV and gate out, and the CV and gate can be assigned to the upper or lower sequencer, upper or lower keyboard, or it can just route any MIDI signal coming in out to the CV and gate and act like a MIDI to CV converter. So it integrates very well with a modular system or in any analog studio. And the last thing I'll mention here is there's an audio input, and by pressing the button here you can switch it into a vocoder, so you can use this synth as a vocoder as well. So that is just a brief overview of everything. Do you guys have any questions? No? Feel free to come on up and start playing around on the stuff, and I can answer questions as you need to. If you're going to be playing around on the DJ-808 here, just note that there's controls on the front as to what each channel is assigned to. So right now they're all set to USB or line. So if you want to hear the music, just switch it back to PC.
Like you said, they're online?
Yeah, so this is all the PC. You just need to start playing stuff. Everything's stopped right now.
Awesome.
Did you want the mic back?
You're good with it, I guess.
Yeah.
If Vincent will come by and speak, maybe we'll have him do a little portion with the mic on.
Okay, yeah,
So,
that's good.
thank you.
You're welcome.